Hello, welcome to the Karo Kirsch podcast. My name is Karo and I am a knitter, crafter, artsy person living in Germany. And I'm super excited that I'm finally sitting down again to talk to you guys. I know it's been a while again. I think the last podcast was sometime in November or something. But I don't know. Many reasons, but I recently upgraded my camera game. I'm super excited to film this podcast with this new camera now, and I'm very excited to see the footage, and I hope going forward things will be much easier for me to do the podcast, because before I kind of needed my husband to help set me up the camera and everything, because I can't do all the settings and sit here in front of the camera at the same time. So with this new one, it should be very easy. I needed a new camera anyways because my other point and shoot would not save on the memory card anymore. So obviously the new one also is kind of good for podcasting. So we'll see. Very excited, but I'm not here to talk about my new camera. It's just so exciting. But I am here to talk about knitting. And there has been quite a bit of knitting happening. I have actually 3 finished objects. As per usual, only 1 work in progress. I do have a little bit of spinning and some acquisitions. And if there is time, I have actually a very exciting project I would like to share with you, but I could also just postpone that. And then another craft section. So we've got lots of ground to cover. Grab yourself a cup of something, maybe a tea or a coffee. I'm just drinking some water here. And let's get started. Maybe I should mention, I don't think I ever really mentioned this, but you can follow me also on Instagram, where I am Karo Kirsch as well. And that's pretty much it. I am on Facebook, but I never really use it, and especially not for my crafting things. So Instagram is the alternative to YouTube. And I'm actually pretty active there in the new year, which I'll come to a little bit later in the podcast. So let's get started. I want to start with the finished objects in the knitting section. My first finished object, I actually don't have to show you, but you do know it. It's the rose cardigan that I knit for my sister, and hallelujah, she finally has it. She can finally wear it, and it finally fits her. So I think the last time I talked to you, I was still in the process of just knitting it kind of for the second time in the new size. And then it was done before Christmas. I think I sent it to her like before Christmas, but then it was too big. It was just way too big. My sister has very narrow back, and it just didn't fit her. We should have just stuck to the first size I was knitting it in, and if we would have done that, I probably would have only need to widen the sleeves, which was the only reason where we're doubtful about that size. But anyways, so my mom was actually there with my sister. So they did all the measurements and the markings where I needed rib back. I ended up shortening the sleeves, and I also took in the back, which all was no problem. It only created a problem with the ribbing. Is it called ribbing? I'm losing my words right now. Yeah, with the ribbing in the bottom, because the back obviously you do with a 3 needle bind off, so I could just open that and rib a few rows back and then do another 3 needle bind off. But then once you do the 3 needle bind off, then you pick up stitches and then you knit like that. So there I had to, because I didn't want to do the whole ribbing again. Then I just kind of did a steek, basically my first ever steek, and then I just sewed it back together, and I really hope it's holding. Now there is a seam where there technically shouldn't be a seam, but it's in the ribbing. You can kind of hide it there. So I think that went okay. I don't have it to show you, but I probably already inserted, or I will insert now, some pictures of my sister wearing it. And yeah, it is super nice. It is a really nice cardigan. I am very jealous of it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to knit that one again. There's so many patterns out there that are also very beautiful that are probably just more exciting to knit because I haven't knit them before. But also I don't know. Yeah, I've pretty much knit that one 3 times, so that's definitely enough for one lifetime. But I'm very happy with how the whole fade worked, and you're actually going to see a little bit more of that fade. The yarn I used for the rose cardigan is the Virgulana Pernilla, which I bought in the very light gray colorway, and then I did my own dyeing on top of it. I used acid dyes, just 2 shades, navy blue and silver, and then I created different variations of blue and gray speckles basically. And yeah, I talked about this. I dyed it a bit more blue than my sister wanted, so I had quite a few skeins left over, which I think I also already mentioned. I had plans on knitting matching sweaters for me and my daughter. This leads me to my next project. It's actually not the next finished project I have, but whatever, it is a finished project, so I'm just going to show it to you. I knit the flax light for my daughter out of some of the leftover yarn. It's a really simple and free pattern by Tin Can Knits. And yeah, it's really nice, quick project. It was a perfect yarn for the project. I think there's also a flax, which is with a thicker yarn, and the flax light obviously uses fingering. Well, not obviously, but thinner yarn. And yeah, I intended to use 4 colors on this, but as you can see, it's only 2. So I only used the darkest of my colors that I had, and then I faded only in the one lighter version because I don't know, I was just not really paying attention. I kind of thought I would just go till the sleeve separation, and then by the time I faded out, it was just like already halfway down the body, so there wasn't really room to fade into another color. But she's actually already worn this. This has been washed and blocked for the 2nd time now, and I think the sleeves are a little bit short, and also the body. Or it would be good right now, but it's actually a bit too wide for her. I think that's what I'm noticing. I knit the 2 to 4 year size for her, and she's barely 2 by now. So it's still quite roomy. And she'll eventually grow into it, but then the sleeves will be way too short. So I think I might actually fade. Like I rip back just a little bit, and then with whatever yarn I have here, I'll fade into 1 stage lighter, and then I have at least 3 colors. I did make a mistake on the shoulders, so I don't know if you can see, but the original pattern has like a garter stitch section on the shoulder going down all the way to the arm, and it's a raglan construction, but it's supposed to be only a stripe, and then you have normal stockinette stitch between the garter and the stripe. But as you can see, I did the garter stitch all the way the shoulder. That way it looks a little bit like a shoulder padding or something, but I didn't want to continue that all the way down the arm, so I just stopped at the shoulders. And I don't know, it's a little mistake, but I don't think it's that bad. You don't really see it anyways that much. But yeah, really cool pattern, and it's done. It was a very quick knit. I think it took me like a week or something, not sure. But yeah, obviously used the same yarn, Virgulana Pernilla, just the leftovers of what I had. And now I'm just going to show you my work in progress, because that is going to be the matching sweater for me. And the whole idea I had with the matching sweater is that her fade would go from dark to light. So I'm excited that I'll actually fade in another light color, because mine goes from light to dark. So as you can see, I barely got started. I'm not even at the sleeve separation yet. And I'm really using up all the scraps I have. So this is undyed, obviously, but just the very tiny little bit that I still had. I didn't want to break into the new skein that I still have. And then I had just one from my very first color experiments. That's this one here. And then I'm already in the third color, but you're probably not really going to be able to tell. So I'm technically already in my third color, even though it looks probably only like the second. And then I have the very dark one still for the bottom. But yeah, this is how it's going. Very potato chippy, very easy to do. Oops. Losing stitches. I think I'm gonna deal with that a little bit later. But yeah, this is my one work in progress. I work on this in the evenings when I'm watching TV as per usual, or sometimes in the afternoons, but it's actually not quite as easy to knit with my daughter around anymore as it used to be, because she wants to be constantly entertained, and me sitting there knitting, talking to her clearly is not entertainment enough. But I kind of jumped into the work in progress here and skipped my other finished object, which was actually the first of the new year, and that's the Roxy dress by Pernille Larsen. And she also already wore this. It's obviously for my daughter, and it's super cute. I really wanted this because I think it's the perfect kind of winter garment for when you're kind of inside. And she's at daycare most of the day, and I don't know, having them running around there, I think this is perfect for it. Outside it would obviously be a little bit too cold, but I think she can still wear it outside in the spring. I hope. We'll see. Depends on the spring, really. But yeah, the yarn that I used for this is actually part of my advent calendar I had last December. And it's already cut over to my acquisitions. So as you can see, I did a fade as well. Quite a bit of fading these days. So I had this pink and gray speckled yarn, and then the solid, in quotation marks, solid with kind of red speckles at the bottom. And those were the first 2 doors of my advent calendar, consisting of 5 doors. So it was really an advent, just the weekends. And then the remaining 3 are these. So the advent calendar was from Quickstrick, who is a German living, knitting, podcasting, and now dyeing yarns in Switzerland, I think in Zurich. And yeah, I mentioned her podcast before because which project was that? I think it was the Shake It Up shawl that I came across because I saw her podcast. And anyways, yeah, so she started dyeing not too long ago, I think maybe a year ago or something, and she did the advent calendar, so I decided to sign up for that. And these 3 are obviously totally me. I love this. Her colors are actually very me, but she also really likes pinks, and this was door number 1, the completely pink one. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't too excited to see that because I was expecting something a little bit more peachy, so a little bit more into the orange. And I was thinking of over dyeing this with the yellow, also the second one. But then I decided not to and just knit something for Lana because she has blue eyes and is blonde. So I figured she can probably wear this. And of course she looks cute in it. And I even thought if I don't like it if it's just too pink. And I don't know, anybody who knows me, I'm really not into all these girly kind of colors. I thought I could just over dye it just a little bit with blue to kind of push it towards lavender. I thought that would probably still be nice, but honestly, it looks really cute on her, and it doesn't hurt that she owns a few girly clothes. So I decided to just keep it as is, and one day she'll put like a huge stain on it. I can still think about maybe over dyeing it. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. This again actually is a little bit more roomy than she would need right now, but again, it's a skirt, and she'll grow into it, and I don't know, it won't be too small one day at one part. And the arms are actually a nice length on this one, so those should be good. I have no idea what I'll end up doing with these three. So this is actually her high twist sock base. So it's a, I don't know, 80/20 merino nylon, I believe. I should look that up, but I'm not sure. So I haven't really thought about what I'll do with these three, but I'm sure I can think of something with these three colors. They are kind of in abundance in my household, it seems. But yeah, that is basically all my knitting projects. There is still one in the back of my mind that just won't leave my mind. And I actually already touched it around Christmas, and I actually pushed it away. Hang on. And that is my shifty. And I don't know, this project is just really against me. You can hold it in the camera again. I honestly have no idea how many times I've ripped out this project and had to redo this. And again, I'm at a stage where I technically wouldn't need to rip back and go again, but I'm so lost on what my gauge actually is. I think it's really because there's so much handspun in here, and it really totally depends on where on the sweater I measure it, because my spinning still not, and definitely not back when I spun this one, was very consistent. So I think that's the problem. I really don't know what else the problem should be. It just always turns out way too big. The thing is, I really want that sweater. That's the thing. And I have a lot of the handspun, because what I actually just recently was thinking with this project, because I was watching the Woolen Vine podcast, and she is knitting the Birkin sweater right now. And actually my mom kind of got the bug in my head that I want a colorwork sweater for myself, but I didn't want the typical Icelandic pattern. I kind of wanted a atypical pattern for a colorwork yoke sweater, and the Birkin sweater is kind of nice. It's by Caitlin Hunter, and Kirsten from the Woolen Vine podcast, she is currently knitting one, and her colors are really, really nice. It's super dark. The pattern is going to be very subtle. I think she's using like mauve and grays as her contrast color, and a very dark gray as a background. So actually very similar just from the mood as this. And I thought that would look so great with exactly this combo, the Birkin sweater. But there's two problems with that. Problem one is the Birkin sweater is also written for a fingering weight, which clearly I have not. So I would again get into a whole hassle of having to recalculate that. And I have not made the best experiences with that recently. And the other problem is it's just a yoke color work, so I wouldn't really be using up all my handspun that I have. So now I don't really know what to do. If I should just knit the Birkin just to get a little bit of distance between me and the shifty sweater, and then just hope that I still have enough left over for this, or do it the other way around. Give this one a go. Just knit the smallest size there is with the tightest needles I can manage with this yarn without it being like a freaking brick blanket after and hope for the best. And if it doesn't work out that way, then I'll just give up on this project. But if that works out, then hope that by the end I still have enough left over of my hand spun to knit that colorwork yoke. Because the other thing with using this hand spun for the colorwork would also mean that I could have a really good use for these pinky colors, which, as you know, if you're watching my podcast for a little longer, that's what I started this sweater with, and I just didn't really like it up here, and now I'm not even sure if I want it in the sweater at all, if I'm not happier with it, if it's just completely blue-gray, and then just leave this for something else, even though I still think that those colors really go very, very nicely together. And in that color work Birkin sweater, using this for the flowers, that would just be, I think that could be really, really nice. So, and I don't know, otherwise, if I use it all up in this one, I guess I can always just buy more of the fiber and spin it up again and do still that Birkin sweater or something. I don't know. It's all still a little bit up in the air, but just letting you know, I actually did knit on this project, but the needles are already out because I screwed up again, and I'm getting very, very frustrated with this project. But that really is all the knitting, and I don't know where on this camera is actually the time. Okay, I think we haven't gone too long yet. I hope I didn't just freaking race through everything. But I'll just talk, and maybe I just have to edit it out in the end. But we definitely will still talk about the spinning I've been doing. And that's actually a spinning project that I started last year in July during the Tour de Fleece. I'm not even sure if I talked about it or not, but it was using fiber that I dyed naturally using avocado and cherry bark. I'll probably insert a picture somewhere of how that looked like, and I made Rolex, mixing it together on my blending board with some dark brown fiber I still had from like a mixed fiber mix I bought in a shop that's Wollschaf, just to kind of experiment a little bit. And then I also mixed in some Reno linen, so it's quite the blend also of colors, because it's a dark brown, it's kind of a white-ish fiber, and then the natural dyed, which is kind of a pinky fiber. And I created 3 singles, and I keep looking at it. Let me get it here. And I have it on my extremely fancy high-tech lazy gate here. So those are my 3 singles. Excuse the junk inside my cardboard box there. Yes, so it's just the box that I covered with some nice wallpaper, and then I punched a few holes and then used knitting needles to hold my bobbins. So that's my lazy Kate. Anyways, and I'm plying these 3 together to make hopefully a sock yarn. I'm done with the first bobbin, and I think the total weight of the fiber is something like 150 grams. And I don't know, I haven't weighed this. This might be 100, maybe not quite. Probably not quite 100 grams. I don't think I can fit a 400 grams on one bobbin. And yeah, not gonna lie, I'm not too excited on how the color worked out. It actually looks better now than in the very beginning. I thought it got super muddy, but there's at least a little bit of brighter sections and darker sections. Here's hoping for, when I actually knit it up, that there's gonna be a little bit of striping, which is what I was hoping. I mean, I knew I was creating Berber poling, because kind of the first bobbin, like the first single I spun, it was just totally random, all the colors together. And then the second one, I kind of mainly did the the hand dyed, the natural dyed, so pinky color, and then the third one I really try to have long sections of one color. So it's like a long section of the brown and a long section of the I always search for a word, the peach color, and then a long section of whatever, when they were like totally mixed together. Like it was like I kind of made the Rolex as I went with the spinning, and then I realized it's probably getting a little bit too jumbled, and then I was trying to be a little bit more consistent with the colors, I guess. But it's all mixed together, so I'm curious how this will knit up. As I mentioned, I'm hoping to use this for socks, and it's not washed obviously because it's still on the bobbin. It looks fairly fine now, definitely like a fingering, but I spun it woolen. So obviously using the Rolex, but also doing long draw, and so it probably will fluff up when I wash it. We will see, but I kind of figured out during knitting my last pair of socks for my husband that sport weight is actually a really nice gauge for me, or weight for me for socks. So I guess either will be okay, and this will definitely become some socks. But as we all know, probably in about 3 years, because I'm still not a centimeter further with the socks that are still on my needles. I don't even know if you still remember them, but I'm not even going to show them because I didn't do anything on them. But yeah, that is the one spinning project, which is obviously going to be done very soon. I actually realized I really don't like plying. I was super excited to start plying because obviously by the time you are done with the third single, and it's very fine, so it takes quite a while, you're like super excited to get into plying. But after probably like 20 meters of plying, I realized, I want to go back to spinning again. I don't know why I don't find plying that enjoyable, because you actually see the yarn finally come together. Maybe with this one I was a little bit disappointed on how the colors kind of became muddy. But I don't know, it's just not exciting. It's just like you kind of just have to wait till all the twist goes in, and then you feed it in, and then it's fast paced on the one end, but at the same time it's just not very engaging. I don't know. You have to, that's the other thing. It really bugs me that you have to really, really watch how you fill up your bobbin for the yarn to kind of go on smoothly. Like it fills up very, very fast. But yeah, I don't know. I just find the spinning part of it much more relaxing and enjoyable than the plying. But it goes fast, luckily. So it should be done. But I did start another spinning project, and I'm not very far at all. As you can see, this is also going to be spun very, very fine. I'm just trying to see how fine I can get, but I don't even know what it's going to be, if it's going to be a 3-ply or a 2-ply. I guess I'll see how much I have, because it's that I don't have that fiber here right now, but it's the Harvest Hues. What was the colorway? I think Juniper, by John Arbin Textiles. So I held that fiber ball into the camera. I bought it for my other hand spun, the Huajas. Maybe I'll put a picture that you know what I'm talking about, but it's kind of this blue-green handspun that I have that I don't really know what to make out of, and I was thinking of maybe making the Vertices Unite, so wanting to spin up some more yarn for that. So maybe that's what this will be, but since I have a lot of it, it might also just become something else. Who knows? I'm just spinning for the fun of it. I was thinking of making it part of the Fluff to Stuff thing that's happening right now, kind of spearheaded by the Knitting Expat and Grace, which is Babel's Traveling Yarns, and then Mars from Hey Brown Berry. Yay, I got them all together. which is a cool kind of make along where you first spin kind of intentionally. And that's where the catch is, because this isn't intentional at all. And then you make something out of your hand spun. Which I totally agree. I can definitely make this part of this, because this is definitely becoming a pair of socks. So this is intentional, even though it started totally unintentional. But who cares? I'm finishing it with an intention. And this one is... The intention is to learn spinning fine. How about that? I'm just making up my intention. Whatever. Anyways, but I first want to finish plying, and then I'll get into this. And that's all my spinning. And I'm totally all over the place today. Because I already was with the acquisitions, but I still have an acquisition that I still need to tell you. So I'm probably gonna hate me during the editing process, because I don't know when to put in my nice knitting works in progress. La la la, because I already screwed up the order there. Maybe I just omit those this time, who knows? I'll just put them in a bunch of times. But we do have some more acquisitions, because I haven't been podcasting so long that we actually already skipped over Christmas. And for Christmas, I don't even remember. I think I treated myself. No, I made my husband buy them for me. So thank you, hubby. I've got a new needle set in my needle family. And yeah, I really wanted to have these. So these are the Xiaogu red lace needles, and this is the small set. I really like that about them, that you can buy just the smaller range of the needles, because let's face it, I mainly knit with sport, fingering, maybe what's the next one, worsted, Aaron? I don't even know, but maybe one size up from sport. Oh, DK, there we go. I do knit with DK, but higher than that, very, very rarely. So I don't really use like even the 5 millimeter, which is the largest size in this one. I'll probably rarely use. I mainly knit with 2.75 to 4, I would say, are my main needle sizes. So this is a perfect set. I don't think I ever held these into the camera. I actually also got these in the time I was already podcasting. This is the very small needles that I got to encourage myself to knit more socks. We all know that that did not work, but I still enjoy these needles. And yes, so this is obviously an interchangeable set. And the reason I really like these is for the cables. So I already owned a few fixed needles of these. And this red lace cable, not trying to make advertisement, by the way, I've heard that you need to mention that you're an advertisement series, because I'm holding things in the camera that are obviously from some company, but I'm not sponsored whatsoever. I'm not getting paid by these people to show these things. I just own them and I use them and I like them and I mention them because I like them. So anyway, so I really like these cables because they don't have a memory, which is something I really don't like about my Licker needle set, my driftwood wooden needles, which I really love knitting with. Like, I really like the needle tips themselves and the look of them. They're just super stylish and they feel good. I just like knitting with wooden needles, but I hate the cables. I really don't like the cables because obviously they're long cables. You need to store them somehow. So you make them in a little coil, and then a coil stays in. And then if you don't have the perfect length of cable for the project you're doing, and I do use magic loop quite a bit for like sleeves and socks, even though I'm not knitting those a lot, then the cable just, I don't know, it just annoys me. And with these ones that doesn't happen, and that's why I really like them. And I am going to find a way to combine these cables with those needles, and then I'm really, really happy. But the needle tips here are stainless steel, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, some kind of metal. And they are very nice too, and they're obviously quite sharp, which is also sometimes very handy in comparison to the wooden needles, which aren't quite as sharp because otherwise they would probably break like crazy. So there's uses for both sets. I definitely use both sets. But yeah, currently this one's my fave. But yeah, that's the last acquisition I meant to show you. And that's really all the knitting. No, it's not. It's not, because the next project is still related to knitting, even though it's a journal. And this is my knitting journal. And I really like planning and having things all together in one journal. And I love Ravelry for that, and it's definitely something I still do, and it's definitely easier and quicker to kind of update. But now and then I do take the time and put my projects into this journal, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do this. I think I might flip into overhead mode to show you a few pages. I was even thinking of maybe updating this, but I might do that a little later today or something, because there are a few started pages where I kind of printed out some pictures, but I haven't actually taken the time. But just to show you an example, I don't know, it doesn't matter which page. Here, a project you don't know yet, because I did it before the podcasting time. But this is kind of how this looks. So yeah, it's virtually just what it is. I want to put some pictures in, maybe some notes of changes I did, and then a whole lot of information, the same type you put in Ravelry as well. Oh, and I have multiple sections. You probably won't be able to tell by this, but there's little tabs which are see-through, so they're really not very easy to read. But they look nice and they are readable, so that's okay. They do what they're supposed to be. So I have, what sections do I have? I have garments, neckwear, accessories, children's wear, home decor, spinning, natural dyeing, and acid dyeing. I'll also have a tab for stash, but I don't know. I don't know if stash makes sense, because that's not really a permanent thing. That obviously is changing, and I don't really want to build up stash. That's not one of my goals. I kind of want to work on my stash. I don't even know how I got stash, because in my mind I only buy yarn for specific projects, but I still have stash build up. So that's weird. How did that happen? I wonder. Buying the wrong yarn for the project. Anyways, so yeah, I'm really enjoying this. And maybe I'll show you a little bit more in detail in the overhead section. But yes, I did this in January, and now I'm using it, and I'm very happy with it, and I can only recommend. Makes you very happy. So yes, this is all I meant to share. The light is kind of leaving me right now, so it's probably a good time to end this anyways. I hope you had fun. I hope this wasn't way too long. I feel like I rambled for quite a while. But yeah, tune in next time. It would make me very happy, and yeah, very, very glad to be back at doing this. Bye!